We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry...
To make the 5x7 loaded envelope flip book, we are going to create this tutorial in 3 parts. The first part will be the easel stand. The second part will be the creation of the loaded envelope, and part 3 will be the flip book. As I mentioned, the original tutorial was created by KK Creations. However, I have modified it for my own needs to make it into a 5x7 loaded envelope flip book, and I've also made some other changes along the way. We're going to focus on part 1 now, which is the creation of the easel stand. You will need paper that measures 2 by 5 inches and scored at 1 inch. You'll need 1 piece of paper that measures 5 by 5 inches and you want to score it at 1, 2.5 inches, and 4 inches. And you'll need 2 pieces of paper that measure 5 by 7 inches. Now, I am using craft cardstock, which is 110-pound weight. I generally like to work with heavier cardstock when I'm creating loaded envelope bases. You'll also need decorative paper. I have 2 pieces that measure 4 7/8 by 1 3/8. I've created the mat so there's a 1/8 inch border around the paper. And then you will need 4 pieces of decorative paper that measures 4 7/8 by 1 3/8. I'm going to go ahead and burnish my score lines. For this piece here, you want to create a mountain, a valley, and a mountain fold. So you'll have a piece that looks just like so. And you want to go ahead and burnish those edges. You want to grab your 2 5x7 pieces and you want to attach it to this accordion fold that you've just created. Just like so. Okay, so let's glue this on. You can either use score tape or liquid glue. I'm going to be using my art glitter glue for this project. I'm going to put glue right here along the base, and I'm going to line this right against the score line. You don't want to go over the score line, you want to just go right up to it. Okay, just like so. Now you want to do the same thing on the other side. You want to glue this piece right here. And you want to put this right up against the score line. And so now you'll have a piece that looks just like this. And this is your easel base. Now you want to take your decorative paper and you want to glue it on the inside of the easel, making sure that there is a 1/8 inch border around the paper, just like so. I'm going to glue this right here, okay? You're going to glue this piece to the other side. Okay. And now you want to take your decorative strips, you want to take 2 of them and put them right on the score lines at the base of the easel, just like so. Okay, we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Now you want to flip this over and you want to put the remaining 2 pieces just like so. Next, you want to take your piece that measures 2 by 5, score it down the middle at 1 inch, and you want to glue it to the top of these two pieces just like so. So it's going to go right here. Okay. So I'm going to glue this first piece down all the way up to the score line. Make sure you get a nice strong adhesion. And then you want to glue this piece to the outside just like this. And there is our easel stand. This concludes part 1. In part 2 of this tutorial, we will create the loaded envelope. In front of you, I have laid out the individual pieces that we will need to create the pockets for the front of the loaded envelope. On the top here is our large pocket, and you will need to cut 2 pieces of paper that measure 4.5 inches by 1 inch, and you want to score at the 3/4 inch line, right in half. These will create the sides of our first pocket. You'll need a piece that measures 6.5 by 5 1/4, and you want to score at a 3/4 inch and 5 3/4. You want to turn the paper over and score at 3/4 inch. So this first pocket will have a 3/4 inch spine all around. For the smaller pocket, you need a piece that measures 5 by 3 inches. You want to turn that around and score at a 1/2 inch on the bottom. And for this smaller pocket, it will have gussets on the side, so you need 2 pieces of paper that measures 2 by 3 inches, and you want to score that at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5 inch, and just create an accordion fold just like so. And again, you do need 2 pieces. And then finally, you will need a piece that measures 5 by 1.5, and you want to score it at 3 1/4. This actually goes to the bottom of our larger pocket right here. For the decorative paper, you will need 1 piece that measures 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. This will go on the back of our easel, just like so. You'll need another piece that measures 4 7/8 by 4 3/8. That will go on our larger pocket. And you will need another piece that measures 4 7/8 by 2 7/8, which will go on the smaller pocket. And then I've created 2 spines. These spines will go on the side of the larger pocket. And this piece, which measures 4 7/8 by 5/8 inch, will go on the bottom of the first pocket. To begin, you want to take your easel that we've just created, and you want to glue hinges on either side of the easel. So you want to take these 2 pieces that measure 4.5 by 1 inch and glue these on the side just like so, lining it right to the bottom and to the side. So it should look just like this. Okay, you want to glue this piece right here to the edge, right to the bottom. You want to make sure you don't go over the score line, otherwise the box won't fit. Your piece should look just like this. And you want to take your other spine and glue it right to the edge, just like you did on the other side. Now, one thing I do want to point out is I am using 110-pound cardstock. For the base of the easel envelope, I think that's fine. I noticed that I'm having some challenges maneuvering this paper at 110 pounds. So I would encourage you to use a lesser weight paper like a 65 or an 80-pound weight to create the loaded envelope component as well as the flip book. Again, we're going to glue this right down here on the edge. And then your piece will look like this and like this. And you want to take your last hinge that measures 5 by 1.5 inch and glue that on the bottom, just like so. So you're creating a little box. Okay, and you want to glue that right to the edge of the base of the easel. So we're going to glue this piece right at the edge. So now you've got a little box. Now you want to take your decorative paper that measures 4 7/8 by 6 7/8, and you want to glue that to the back. I'm going to glue this right inside, making sure that there's that 1/8 inch border all around. Now that we have the decorative piece glued on, let's put this aside and start working on our larger pocket, which measures 6.5 by 5 1/4. You want to fold along the score lines. And one thing I do want to point out is on the bottoms, I did cut out the little squares. I cut them on an angle, just like so. What you want to do now is grab these two hinges that measure 2 by 3 and that are scored at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5 inch, and you want to do an accordion fold. I did go ahead and cut off 1/8 inch on both sides of these pieces, and this is slightly different than the original measurements that I've given you. So just on these side hinges, just cut off about 1/8 of an inch. You want to glue these hinges on the side of the pocket, and this will create the accordion hinges for our smaller pocket. If it's easier, you can just fold in all of these pieces like so. And then we're going to glue the hinge so that the open side is facing inside the pocket. So you're going to have a mountain side facing out, just like so. Okay, you want to face it this way. And you want to bring this right to the edge of the paper and the bottom of the pocket. Make sure that's glued down really well. So this piece should look just like this. And you want to go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. Again, you want to make sure that the mouth of the accordion, or the crocodile if you will, is facing inward and not outward. So you're going to glue this piece right to the bottom. Get it all the way to the edge and make sure you burnish it very well. So your piece should look just like this. Next, we want to take our smaller pocket, which measures 5 by 3, and we want to burnish the score line. And we want to glue this bottom edge along the bottom of the pocket, just like so. So it's right at the bottom. You want to make sure it's right above the score line on the bottom. These pieces will fold up to form the pocket. Before we do that, let's go ahead and glue in the decorative paper in the center. So you want to grab your piece of designer paper that measures 4 7/8 by 4 3/8, and you want to glue that in this back piece. Okay. Now you want to glue this front panel up over the accordion pieces, just like so. What you may want to do is miter these edges slightly, just so it will reduce any bulk. So I'm just going to trim just a little bit, just like so. Just trim this just a little bit. And then it folds up nice, just like that. So you want to put glue here and here. And then you want to fold up onto the hinges. Now you want to take this piece of cardstock that measures 4 7/8 by 2 7/8, and you want to glue it to the front panel. And if you want to create a decorative edge, now is the time to do it. But for this project, we're going to keep it simple. And here's our completed pocket with the accordion fold on either side. Next, you want to grab your base and you want to glue this piece on top. What you need to do first is to put adhesive right here, and then we'll glue it down just like this. So I'm going to put glue on this bottom flap, and I'm going to glue this flap on my front pocket right on top. Now I did miter the edges, but this is going to be covered with decorative paper, so you won't really see it. Then we're going to put glue on these flaps here and glue the top of the box on. And I'll put glue on this side. And then we're going to lift the top of the box onto our side pieces. So you have a nice line that is flushed. What you want to do is take your bone folder and make sure that the pieces are attached. And you want to glue the second edge down. Again, using your bone folder to make sure that all of the edges are tightly secured. Next, what you want to do is take the decorative pieces of paper and glue it on the side just to finish the spines. You will notice that I have measured this piece of paper so that it is longer, and that way it will cover up the edges so that you'll have a nice finished look to it. Go ahead and glue down this paper. Line it up just like so. And you want to wrap this edge around to finish the edge. You want to just hold that for a few seconds. And you want to turn around and do the same thing on the other side. And then you want to wrap this piece of paper around to cover the edges. Then you want to take your last strip, which measures 4 7/8 by 5/8, And you want to glue that on the bottom. Making sure to cover up those two pieces. And there is your finished loaded envelope. I really love this execution because you have a box for the front pocket of the loaded envelope, which means that you can store larger goodies inside, and then you have this accordion pocket right here. And with the strips that we added here, everything looks nice and finished. Okay, we're going to move on to part 3 to create the flip book. This is the third and final part of our tutorial. We are going to create the flip book that goes on the back of our easel loaded envelope. Before we begin, you will need a number of items. You'll need a piece of paper that measures 6.5 by 7, and you want it scored at 1 inch and 1.5 inch. You'll need a piece of paper that measures 4.5 by 7, also scored at 1 1/2 inch. You'll need a piece of paper that measures 6 by 4, measured on all 3 sides at 1/2 inch. You'll need 2 pieces that measure 4 7/8 by 4, and you want to score 1/2 inch on the top part on each piece. You'll need a piece of paper that measures 9 3/4 by 7, and you want to score it at 5 inches. And you'll need a piece that measures 10 by 7, scored at 8 inches. What we want to do first is work with the front covers of the book. So grab the piece that's 6.5 by 7. You also want to grab the piece that's 4.5 inches by 7. These 2 pieces will make the cover of the loaded envelope. So what you need to do is make sure you fold and burnish each of the score lines. You want to adhere this piece onto the back of this loaded envelope. So I'm going to grab my glue. And again, you can use wet glue or you can use score tape. This flap is going to go right on the edge of our loaded envelope. And you want to make sure you have it all the way at the edge. Just use your bone folder and make sure you have a nice strong adhesion. Now you want to grab your piece that's 4.5 by 7 inches, and you want to glue that on the opposite side of the cover, just like so. You want to glue this piece right on the edge. And if you need to flatten this piece down, go ahead and do it. And here are the front covers of our flip book. Next, I want to give these edges a decorative edge. So I'm going to use my edge punch. I'm just using this We Are Memory Keepers punch. And I'm going to be using the Art Deco side just to create a little dimension for the edges of the pages. I'm going to do that on all sides. Next, you want to grab some magnets. I'm going to be using these large magnetic discs. These are by Basic Gray. And we want to put a magnet here and a magnet here to keep our book shut. You could also use Velcro instead. I'm going to put a magnet here. And you want to make sure that you're about an inch in from the side of the paper, because once you put your decorative paper on top, it could actually lift. So this is a good place to put it. I'm going to put another magnet here. And then I'll just take off the backing. You want to make sure you hold your book up straight so that you can get the right spot for the magnets. So your magnets are attached. You want to hold on to your magnets because we'll need to use them elsewhere in the flip book. Now you want to get your decorative paper for the front and the back. You're going to need a piece of paper for the left cover that measures 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. And that's going to go right here. I'm going to put this. This is a little easier to see. We want to put this right down on the cover. And then you want to glue this piece down right here on top, but you want to make sure that you use the decorative edges for the front cover. And we're going to glue this down just like so. And your cover is done. We're going to embellish this later. So let's open up the inside. Next, we want to put the decorative paper on the inside of the left panel. And so you will need a piece that measures 4 7/8 by 5. Now the reason it's only 5 inches is because we're going to put a pocket on the bottom, and so you don't need to waste that extra design paper. And this is going to go right at the top here, making sure not to go over your score lines. Now you want to grab your pocket, which is going to go right here. Originally this piece was 4 by 6 inches, and I said to score it a 1/2 inch on all sides. Because I'm using thicker paper, I don't want to have so much bulk. So I've cut off the 1/2 inch on all 3 sides, and then I cut off a slight piece on this edge here so that this now measures, instead of 6 inches, it's 5 and a little bit shy of 5 7/8. Before I glue this down, let's go ahead and get our decorative paper that's going to go on it. We're going to glue that down. Okay, and so now what we're going to do is glue this piece right down here, right before the score line, on 3 sides. Not on the top, because that's where your tag is going to be. I'm going to put the glue right on the edge. And this is going to go right here on the edge. Again, you want to make sure you do not go over your score line. Now you want to grab the decorative piece for this right inside panel, and you want to cut the decorative edges so that it matches this flap right here. We're going to glue this right here. I'm going to line this piece up just so it's just before the score line. Next, you want to grab your piece of paper that measures 9 3/4 by 7 that's scored at 5 inches. This is what I'm calling page 1. You'll know that this is the correct piece because the front panel is slightly smaller than the back panel. And you want to grab the mat that goes with this that measures 4.5 by 6 7/8. So that's going to go just like so. So let's glue on our decorative paper. Now we're going to add in a pocket page. This is a pocket page that I'm using. The first box measures 4 inches and the second box measures 3 inches. Let me show you which ones I'm using. I purchased these from Tuesday Morning. They're by We Are Memory Keepers. And what we need to do is cut this pocket right below the second pocket so that it is still intact, and then cut it on the score line or just after the score line. So let's do that right now. So I want to cut this just after the score line so that there's a nice seal. And then I'm going to cut it after this score line here. So your pocket page will fit just like so. We're going to have to cut about a 1/2 inch off the top. And now our pocket page will fit just perfectly. What we're going to do is put double-sided tape on the back of this and attach it like so. I'm also going to cut off this hinge here where the little holes are right up to the score line because we don't need that. That's just going to create extra bulk. So now you should have a piece that looks just like this. So I'm going to grab my score tape and I'm going to put a line of double-sided tape right back here. I'm going to put an edge right here. Make sure you burnish it well. I'm going to take off the backing. And then I'm going to line up this perforated edge on the score tape that we just put down. I'm going to put another piece of tacky tape on this. Now you want to bend over and you want to score it and bend it as much as possible so that it remains flat. Next, you want to grab your piece of paper that measures 10 by 7 and that is scored at 5 inches. This piece is going to be attached to the back of this piece, just like so. And so you have your pocket pages, you have page 1, page 2, page 3. And then these two pages will be glued together in the center. So what you want to do is take off this score tape here and then glue these two sheets together like so. Okay, so we're going to glue this right down like so, making sure that the edges are completely aligned. These pieces should match exactly. Okay, so you have your flap, you have your first page, page 2, 3, and this will be 4 and page 5. This piece will be glued to the back of the book right here in the center. Before we do that, let's put on our decorative paper. Now you want to get your mats for page 2 and 3. These pieces measure 4 5/8 by 6 7/8. That's going to go on page 3. And I have a piece that measures 4 1/2 by 6 7/8. That's going to go on page 2. I also want to create a little tip-in for this page. And so I've simply taken one of the cut-aparts and I've lined it with the coordinating piece of paper from this 12 by 12 sheet. And I've scored it at 1/2 inch. So this will actually fit on the page just like so. And so before I glue this page down, I'm going to glue it to this page. So I'm going to put glue right here, right on this 1/2 inch panel here. And these tip-ins are a great way to add additional real estate for photos, or if you want to add a journaling spot. And I'm going to put this right here. Okay, and then glue this down. And this whole piece will now be glued down. I'm going to glue this right in just like so. So now you have a little journaling spot here. I'm going to put the second page right here. Now that we have page 2 and 3 complete, let's start working on page 4 and 5. And for that, I have a mat, which is 4 5/8 by 6 7/8. That's going to go here. I have a little tip-in that I want to use. Again, this is part of the cut-aparts, and I just glued on a piece of decorative paper on the back, and I scored it at 1/2 inch. So this is going to go like this. Very similar to what we did on the previous page. And you have journaling here, and then another area for a photo. On page 5, I want to create a vertical gatefold that will open just like so. And so I have two pieces that are 4 7/8 by 4, and it's scored 1/2 inch on the bottom and the top. And then I have decorative paper, measure 4 3/4 by 3 3/8. So I'll go right here. On the inside, we're going to create a waterfall, and we'll cut out those mats next. So let's start gluing these down. So similar to this tip in here, we're going to take this piece and glue it on this page right here. Yep. We'll glue this inside 1/2 inch flap, and I'm just going to eyeball it about where I want to have it on the page, roughly about the middle. I think that looks good right there. Okay, using my bone folder to make sure the piece is down securely. And you want to make sure that you get extra glue on this hinge that you attached, since it is accommodating for thicker paper. Okay, so let's glue down the vertical folds. Once again, this piece is 4 7/8 by 4, and we're going to glue it on this 1/2 inch. Now, I've cut this just 1/8 shy of this page so that it does not interfere when we close the page. And that is going to go right on the top of our page. Now we're going to glue this bottom flap down just like so. And the pieces should come together. Going to glue this piece right down on the edge. Now we want to glue on the mats for page 5, and we have 3 panels that we have to cover. The bottom piece measures 4 3/4 by 3/8. That's going to go here. And on this paper, I did take a piece of the border strip of these cute little doggy bones, and I've glued it on 3 sides, and that way you can slip in a photo right here. So I have 2 pieces that go here and here. And then I have a mat for the center area, which measures 4 7/8 by 6 7/8, and that's going to go right here. And our waterfall pieces will be glued on top. So let's start gluing these down. I'm going to glue down the center piece. And then we have our final piece, which is going to go right here on the top. Okay, so we're going to glue down our waterfalls. So these waterfall flaps measure 4 1/2 by 4 inches, and we scored it at 1/2 inch. So let's start gluing these flaps down. Going to glue this right here. The second piece is going to go right here. I'm going to make sure that these pieces are straight. Glue down the next piece. It's going to go right here. And I think we can put one more down here. Let's see. I've cut out a mat for each of the waterfalls, and these pieces measure 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. I'm going to glue down these pieces and then the mats for the gate folds, and I'll be right back. Now that we have our center unit complete, we have to glue this inside the flipbook. So grab your base, and this panel is going to be glued right here. So we're going to glue this down right in between the score lines. I'm going to make sure that everything is lined up. I've put my clips on top to hold this as it's gluing down. I'm going to give this a few minutes to dry, and then I'll be right back. While I was off camera, I finished decorating this 5x7 loaded envelope flipbook. This paper collection was so much fun to work with, and I cannot wait to give this project to my neighbor. I think he's absolutely going to love it. On the top here, I've added some doggy bones and a sentiment that says "bad to the bone." I've included this cut apart that says Santa Paws, and I'm going to write my Christmas note to him. I have a little bully ring chew toy back here, and then I've also included some fun bow ties for the doggy, and on the bottom here it says "faithful friend." And on the back I embellished it with this cute little doggy bone, and I spelled out the dog's name, Bowser. I love these typewriter letters. It's so much fun. And then we have our little doggy here that says Yappy Holidays, and I included a few little paw prints. This concludes my tutorial of the 5x7 loaded envelope flipbook. Hopefully I inspired you with some new and creative ideas. If you liked my video, please be sure to give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Join me tomorrow for day 12, our final day in the 12 Days of Christmas Craft series. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all a very happy holidays. Bye for now.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas.